Yes, hello, and from the great American Northeast, I bid you all good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. My name is Leah Prime, and this is the Invisible Night School. For those of you just joining us, the Invisible Night School is a small consortium of lay researchers and scholars pursuing the study and exploration of high strangeness. INS is not a monolith. We represent varied ideas, backgrounds, disciplines, and experiences, and seek to engage in good faith dialogue with other curious minds. Tonight we'll be talking about DIY paranormal, basically how to do woo at home. We'll also touch on some of the recent UFO whistleblower news at the start of the show. In addition to my lovely and brilliant co-hosts, I am delighted to welcome Garrett Kelly as tonight's guest. Garrett is a sound artist and multi-instrumentalist who's been in way too many forgettable bands. They're co-founder of low-power FM radio station Hollow Earth Radio, KHUHLP 1049 FM, a software developer for classic grunge label Sub Pop Records, and all-around amateur reality LARPer. Oh God, I have to remember that for my introduction. It's perfect. Garrett graduated from Humboldt State University in Northern California with a degree in religious studies and is especially interested in the ways in which paranormal investigation dovetails with art, theater, performance, ritual, mythology, and technology. Outside of developing the online liminal Earth map of worldwide paranormal experiences, they're interested in building new tools for interacting with mysterious phenomena. For instance, Garrett made a homemade ham radio antenna for interacting with the Black Knight satellite and other aerial entities, as well as new kinds of spirit boxes that are able to utilize any sort of raw sound, not just AM or FM dial. This includes the entire ripped audio from Ghostbusters, Mac and Me, the Ewoks Adventures, and or Rodney Dangerfield stand-up routines. Fantastic, you're covering the whole spectrum of cultural artifacts. Garrett lives in Bremerton, Washington, on the Kitsap Peninsula, and is always on the search to uncover the mystery of the giant shrimp in the laundry room, the town's hyper-local cryptid first seen in 1948. That is quite an introduction for Garrett. Before bringing him onto the stream, of course, I'd also like to welcome my co-hosts. I have the inimitable Nick. Hello.
Oh, it's you.
It's you. Campbell.
Hello.
Yes,
Good to see
it's been
you,
a while.
Leah. Absolutely, yeah.
And then also, I would say at this point, effectively adjunct faculty member Jay Shank. Jay, how are you?
Hey, good. Can we get a little next time I'm on like a ding when I smile on like a star thing?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, I do
I
that.
need to get some like production intern here.
We need an Amiga and a video toaster. We can do it.
Yes. Beautiful. And without any further delay, I'd love to welcome on Garrett Kelly. Garrett.
Yay.
It's great to see you.
We did you say Garrett worked for Sub Pop?
Yes.
Oh, that's really cool.
Oh, Garrett, you're muted.
Oh.
Unmute thyself, friend.
Hi. Yes, I do. I work. I do like the website tech stuff at Sub Pop.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
do we want to get this UFO stuff out of the way and then actually get into it?
It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. Let's do the painful stuff first. So, big week in UFO disclosure. It finally happened. Things have been disclosed. What do we think?
It is the only thing I can liken it to. It is the Canadian girlfriend. It's like, you know, like I went on my vacation to Calgary with my parents, and I met this girl, and, you know, she's like my girlfriend, but she lives in Calgary, and like, you guys don't know her because she's from Canada. And like a guy told me that we have stuff, and also the guy that's telling us is an intelligence agent, and they never lie.
Sure. You know, for the record, I personally, and like this is some rhetoric that's getting passed around. I don't think he's lying. I think David Grush, is that how you say it?
I believe so.
I can completely believe that he 100% believes the things he's talking about. From what I understand, he was part of the UAP task force. I believe he was assigned to that. He didn't sign up. And I'm wondering if maybe his name got out from that, because it really seems like, from what I'm seeing all over Twitter today and talking to people, he's talked to a lot of people already. He's talked to Knapp and Corbell. He's talked to Greer, apparently. He's maybe talked to Joe Murgia. I don't know if that's true. Eric Davis. He's talked to a lot of people, and we know that
Elizondo's been talking to him for a couple of years.
Elizondo. And I mean, we know that a lot of these people, particularly Eric Davis, who's has to do the David Wilson Davis notes, right? They fully believe that too. I just wonder if that is the information he's been given. You know, all like the stuff we all already kind of know about and wonder about. And I wonder if that's what he's bringing.
If you could graph my confidence with each name you said, it like would have taken like a 25% spike into now we're in negative numbers.
Yeah, I am with you there. I'm just trying to be fair to everybody to present the story.
Sure.
I don't think that there are bodies or recovered ET or NHI craft at all. But, you know, like we'll see. I mean, like if something comes out of this, I mean, this really seems like a media blitz to me. So yes. I don't know when we'll actually get to anything like worth discussing. Because I mean, there's barely anything worth discussing yet, right?
Yeah. Well, it seemed pretty intriguing at the start. Like my eyebrows went up when I started reading about it, and I mean, we all would like it, I think, to be true. I think we would like that. Like Mick West said, he was interviewed by Chris Cuomo on the same channel there, News Nation. I guess that's what Cuomo's been up to since he got fired. And Mick West said, you know, it'd be great if this was true. You know, it'd be really cool. And so what starts out with, once again, always it seems that it looks really good, right? So we have two former New York Times journalists interviewing a very high-level intelligence officer who has worked directly with the UFO subject. This guy presents that there is a UFO crash recovery program in the U.S. government, has exotic, non-human technology in its possession, is the claim. He then, on face-to-face interviews, is saying that they actually have bodies and a number of other things. He was asked by Ross Coulthart, the investigative journalist, retired now, I guess, but he asked him, what is your confidence level? And he said 100%. And since then, we've seen some issues arise. There's a lot of stuff about how he's been saying that, I haven't seen any of this stuff directly, but I've been talking to people who have, high-level people. And then when you start looking at people who he seemingly has been speaking to, that's when it gets really unfortunate. At first, I was hoping, it's like he's saying, high-level people, I was excited by the prospect that maybe there are new names, people that aren't involved in sort of the UFO entertainment circuit. But it's the names are, as you said, Nick, it's a variety of people who have been in this field for a long time. A lot of his language, actually, Dr. Gary Nolan gave that speech just a couple of weeks ago at that tech conference, and he talks about how, thank you, and there's he was specifically talking about crash retrievals and how 100% was the exact language. So I'm concerned that the people that briefed him are not maybe the people that we would have liked, and we don't know that yet, but we'll have to wait and see.
Without conferring an evaluation on the accuracy of his story, what I've found really interesting to witness is the speed with which media outlets have been picking up this story. This feels
Yes.
like it has it's like that classic egregore situation where the media and popular imagination is conferring more and more importance on it, so it's snowballing,
Yeah.
right? Including, I mean, an article I think in The Guardian yesterday or today about urging the world nations, basically urging the US to disclose what, if anything, it knows on the subject.
That was
Right, and
notable.
the Guardian isn't a rag. Like the Guardian's
Oh, it's very legit.
yeah, it's very legit. So
Snowden went to them originally.
But
Yeah, right.
one thing about this though, going back to it, was for some reason I had like the neurons fired today, and I was thinking of Glenn Campbell and the Groom Lake Desert Rat, and this is
Mhm.
like old stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
You know, and going through some of that, and I went on the Wayback Machine because Glenn passed a while back, and
Right.
his site is finally off. But I was going back and looking at that, and it's like Glenn was on Larry King in the 90s with Greer.
Mhm.
Glenn, like again, I think what it was John Tenney posted the Time magazine with the gray on it, where it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
50th anniversary of Roswell.
Mhm.
So I feel like the media, this is like there's a media cycle of this too.
Yeah.
Like it goes, and we had it, now it's in 2017, and we're cycling towards it. I think the difference in the last cycle was that there were more popular media shows, because one of the things, again, I'm disappointed that this wasn't in the Corbell doc. I forgot about it. Was the Bob Lazar Steven Seagal connection that comes up in Groom Lake Desert Rat.
What?
That supposedly one of other Bob's other stories was that he was going to work on a movie about Area 51 with Steven Seagal, back when Steven Seagal was like somewhat of a legitimate action star. And if we had an X-Files, and I think one of the things that was really driving hype that I noticed a recurring thing in Desert Rat was the movie Independence Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if we had that stuff now,
What about
in our
Mars
media
attacks?
landscape,
I mean, like UFOs have been in pop culture continuously for everyone on this show's entire lives.
They're just not as hot right now, though.
Yeah,
Like,
but
we don't have
everything kind of ebbs and flows like that. But I mean, like all throughout the 90s, because of things like X-Files, and then the true crime stuff, Unsolved Mysteries, sightings, the alien autopsy, Phoenix Lights and stuff.
I want to push back on that though, because UFOs are definitely becoming something of a hot subject among a very particular demographic, which is like basically the alt-right talking heads, right? Tucker Carlson, Matt Walsh just did a whole video talking about this. This is again being co-opted by like the conspiranoia branch of American pop politics.
The right wing are the front runners of the post-truth movement. So I mean,
exactly, it makes sense.
And that's not to say anything to anyone who has these beliefs or anything. It is kind of you understand how I could call it post-truth, because our consensus reality is that there are not aliens visiting us, and the government is not covering them up. Like that can be true, and I could still, I think, describe it that way.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of interesting because this whole thing is alleging a major conspiracy, and we know there are always conspiracies occurring within the government. I mean, it's just a fact of the national security state, and it's a not valid purpose is to conceal information, to work behind the scenes and all that stuff. But it's interesting to be alleging a conspiracy, and it's all the familiar faces behind the scenes on this one. So maybe there's a bit of irony there or something if all of these folks are the ones talking to each other behind the scenes. And the language has been around grooming, is what Bender said, journalist, and Greer, what did he say? He said mentoring. So there's something troubling occurring here behind the scenes.
I've seen this whole event referred to as a reboot of 2017, and there are obviously parallels. What do you all think of that?
There's been a real nexus of things happening in the last month, and I think that there's something going on there. Dr. Gary Nolan coming out with that speech. Chris Mellon put out that article that was quite popular. Now we have this. Eric Davis has come out of the woodwork on Facebook, sort of hyping this, talking about
On
suggesting
Facebook,
Washington Post.
Seemingly.
Yeah, no,
on Facebook.
the screenshots of the
The
Facebook,
agora
I'm
of
just
the
like,
21st
what's going on?
century.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what I'm going to say about it tonight. It's far better to be like our guest Garrett and build an antenna and go looking for UFOs yourself than it is to wait for disclosure.
Nice. Yeah.
Yes.
I could
Good
agree with
segue.
that.
That's
What a
my
beautiful segue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually made a TikTok about this like the last time this happened, talking about how being on TikTok, it's all these people like dancing and having fun and doing weird videos, and then like other people caught on, like, and I saw like John Travolta trying to sell me something, and it like killed the mood. And I feel like there's a relation, like I have fun with UFOs by like baking them cookies and like like doing all these like weird experiments, and that's a totally different world than some of this other stuff. I just don't
Oh yeah.
I don't follow any of this, the like kind of disclosure stuff
you.
at all, because
Mhm.
it's like, well, and it's fine if people want to do
Must
that.
be
It's just
nice.
not my
no,
scene at all, and I appreciate
when I
people
talk about
wanting to do that.
mind
It's fine.
It's a mind virus.
Right.
Yeah.
The
the
one
post-
thing we
Go
Oh,
ahead.
I was going to say the one thing we also didn't touch on was Chris Mellon's op-ed.
I didn't even read that.
Uh,
But I believe that it did refer
Basically
to
front ran,
crash retrievals, though,
front run.
right?
yep. Yeah.
well.
Interesting.
One of the things you just said, Leah, though, about it being a mind virus, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot after this past weekend too, with our overall, because one of the things I love with Garrett and Liminal Earth is the overall kind of the mindset of interacting with the paranormal,
Yes.
because the like UFO conspiracy mindset on Twitter is a mind virus, and there are a lot of weird people on there, and some of them seem like borderline dangerous and crazy. Another thing that so this weekend I went to a cryptid convention because it was local. I don't get to, there's not a whole lot of stuff that's in Ohio, but a Small Town Monster Fest was there. And I don't want to call these people out by name. There was a sponsor there they're cryptid investigators, and they go out in the woods at night and look for stuff. But I watched a couple of their videos because their table, and this is kind of tangentially related, they had all the gear. They had all the commercial toys, like all the stuff you can buy. And everything that they encountered, they went out with like this real sense of fear that they're going out in the woods at night. There are like hostile creatures getting them. There's dark forces. There's evil cultists. Like everything that is a manifestation of the paranormal skews to the demonic or like the scary. And to me, the two of them spent like 90 minutes like freaking each other out on their videos. And I'm a little concerned because they're also like, we have guns. And I'm like, well, don't freak out and like pop like somebody, or like don't shoot yourself in the foot.
Don't shoot
like,
yourself.
I mean, like, because I will say, like, like the woods is scary at night, especially. And these people are like, we're self-taught outdoorsmen. I'm a little bit no. Well, if you go out and hang out, like, there's a difference again, because I know, like, you hang out in your backyard a lot. I hang out in my backyard a lot at night. There are critters that pass through, but you'll be like, I hear something in the brush, in the brushes, and it's like, it is a raccoon. It is not supernatural evil about to devour you. Although, since it is a raccoon, if you would share some of whatever snack you're having, that would be greatly appreciated. It is interesting. So I smell you got some peanut butter cookies here going, bud. It's just some of the mindset, and I think going into this, like, going into it with a sense of, like, for lack of a better word, fun, lightheartedness, a little joy, wanting to interact with the phenomenon in a joyful way, kind of ties into some of the DIY stuff that we've both done. Am I right, Garrett?
Yeah, I mean, that's the mindset I'm coming from, definitely. Not to say that I worry about that so sometimes, because I know people do have these terrifying experiences, and I don't want to make light of those, or because sometimes I'm on the fence of it. For me, a lot of what I do is kind of imaginal or like right on the line of like play or something, you know, and like kind of imagination play that sometimes has like weird things happen, you know, even when I know I'm starting out kind of as a joke, but then like weird stuff ends up happening. But so I just don't want to, I get nervous sometimes, like feeling like I'm being too silly about it. But I think it is like a good way to go into it instead of like, you know, the ghost hunters going in there with like as like a SWAT team, or, you know, it's just not my vibe at all. I think sometimes if you go in it with that mindset, and you'll get a response that matches. So,
Garrett, have you personally had any remarkable experiences that you'd be willing to sort of start us off with, share, just so we can get a sense of your experience with this subject?
Yeah, I mean, I've had a couple that are kind of minor. Like one time I did see, this is more like I was cooking and I saw something in the corner of my eye looking at me, and I turned and it looked like me for a brief moment. This thing that looked like me looking at myself.
Like a doppelganger.
Yeah, that was freaky. That was like 20 years ago. That was terrifying. Recently, this thing that happened to me that I think is really weird, and it's like this thing I said out as kind of a joke. I found this phone booth in an abandoned parking lot, and I picked it up, and I'm really inspired by time travel stuff, and I've made a time travel museum before. So I picked it up and I was like, if there's any like entities or supernatural beings who want to make a connection with me, I'm here to answer your call. I'm gonna respond to you, or I'm waiting for your message. And I hung up, and then 2 weeks later, I was with a friend in a cemetery. We were doing like spooky Estes method stuff, and there's things in the forest around us, probably just raccoons, but we were freaking each other out. And the next morning, someone on Twitter that I know wrote to me, and she said, Garrett, I had a dream about you last night. And I don't know her that well. And she said, I was driving through a cemetery and I came over to your house and I was feeling sick. So you put a sheet over my head and I couldn't see anything. And then you put these headphones on my ears and they were making all this noise, and you were trying to talk to me through the headphones. And I was like, what?
Oh,
like, it really
weird.
felt like something was telling me, like, I saw you in this cemetery. This is what you were doing. And I'm going to send the message back to you, the voicemail, the astral voicemail from that phone booth, through this person, to let me know that they could see me and could respond to me this way.
Yes.
Because I have no idea how this person would know I was doing those things. Like, her dream emulated what I was doing. So anyway, that was just a weird thing that I could not explain. Yeah. And at the time I was doing this like weird TikTok experiment where I was having people meet in their dreams at this abandoned park by my house to find this object there. And so all these people were dreaming about me, and like saying they like saw me in the park. They saw my shadow self and I was trying to eat their soul or something. But so like already she wrote to me, she like, I had a dream of like, oh yeah, lots of people have dreams about me now. But then she told me everything I had done the day before that I had no way. It was so freaky. So yeah, that's kind of where I go. I guess it's just like leaning into like playing with it, and like and then just storytelling, or kind of like building the pieces and kind of like creating meaning out of what's happening. Like, to me, that is super fulfilling, and I don't need it to be real or not real. I'm okay with it being kind of in between. That's fine with me. That's my perspective on it. But I know some people want like hard facts and everything. That's not really my jam. I don't care about debunking people unless they're freaking out. Like sometimes I do, but
Sure.
Yeah, I kind of like when I was watching those videos, like, I don't want to debunk this, but I want you guys to calm down and not like freak yourself out in the woods, like really bad with stuff, and just kind of like, I think though, I think that's what you just said is an important distinction, though, that there are a lot of people, there is like a micro industry of buying paranormal investigation gear now and going out and using it. And at some point, like one of the things, we've made some decisions about like doing these things, and they've sort of become ritualized and people do them. I don't think it's necessarily, I don't think anybody's going to buy an EMF meter and go prove something. I know people have that idea, and I think like a lot of people like we're going to catch it. But I do think like the experience of interacting with it is important, and kind of even what I think the most controversial thing I would have to say, tying into what Garrett says, is it doesn't matter if it's like quote unquote real or not, because you're still having the experience. And if you take that like a step farther and go into thinking about it a little bit like philosophically, if it's having an effect, if it is producing like an experience, like it doesn't matter. I view things as sort of in this now as effectively real, for lack of a better way to put it. Like some people would say like it's purely psychological. It's just if you're doing tarot or you're doing a spirit box or you're doing that, you're plumbing the depths of yourself. Some people would say you're really interacting with an extra dimension of reality. I don't think it matters, actually. I think it's interesting to play with yourself and try to, but I think it's important to like do it and have the experiences. And
oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and for me, part of that is like making the stuff too. Not just being like, I'm going to like buy the thing and try to do it. Although for me also, like I did start out like that, and I'm like, a lot of this stuff is really expensive. And when I got into electronics, I'm like, oh, you can do this like a lot cheaper if you learn some basic electronics and get a soldering iron.
What's the little recorder that they use that for EVPs? It's like super expensive.
The DR60.
Yeah, it's like ridiculous. Like that inspired Jeremy and I make this like system for doing divination that you just use like rocks and nuts and berries that you find. Like you don't literally do not need to buy anything to do it, because it's to me that's so ridiculous to just. I mean, and like you said, there's like this folklore around it. It has like this meaning, but like I really want to make things that are like accessible and cheap for people, and literally just use what's around you is the ideal.
I think the DR60 thing is a good example of kind of how I look at it. So for the people that don't know, the Panasonic DR60 was the first digital voice recorder ever. It was the first one to record on memory. And a lot of people had issues with them. They would hear voices that like were in there. And I think a lot of them, people like tossed them, people sent them back to Panasonic. Like I think Panasonic would let you send them in and get the next model that, if you're like a doctor or a physician or something, give me the non-haunted one. Because I have work to do. And they've become I view them as like it's using them as folklore. They're totemic. They're like an object of power, and they're about $6,000 a pop on eBay.
Oh wow!
And
oh my God,
this is like one of the things though for understanding and the mindset. So like if you want to buy one to scientifically, like you're scientifically minded paranormal investigator, you want to do EVPs, this is the worst money you can spend your money on. Like and there's a site, a paranormal site that's got a really weird name, Higgy Pop, and somebody on there that knows way more about it than me actually like did like a tear down and looked at the components, and they're like, I can tell you why you get voices on this, and it is like hardware like engineering issues that they had, because this is like the first thing of its kind, and this is like what they fixed on the second one. If you wanted to have like, I'm going to have a magic voice recorder and go have like adventures with my magic voice recorder, I would say if you have it's $6,000 is like throwaway money for you, maybe do it. You could still buy the next model and pretend it's a DR60, just like scratch the eye. I think the next one's like a DR60i, scratch the eye off. you know. But it's
It's
the method, and it's a weird thing because on one hand, the scientifically minded people actually don't understand the science of the object they're using, and it's
Yeah.
like you might as well have some fun with it. Take it as a tool to have an experience with, rather than a tool to like objectively evaluate truth
Yeah.
with.
It's the same stories with the K2 meter. I think it goes by. I think they sell it as like the ghost meter on Amazon.
Mhm.
It's a single access EMF meter that like can be set off by like a Bluetooth mouse, and it's one access, so you have to wave it in that kind of PKE meter thing. But like I said, nearly anything can trip this thing off. So if you were approaching it like Jay is suggesting, oh
Yeah.
my god,
$12. This is a
Yeah.
kit. I built these for people. Garrett's got one. These are great, and you
There's
can
mine,
actually
yeah.
go like I calibrate. I have a fluorescent light in my kitchen. I calibrate this off the fluorescent light. When you're about yay far, it'll start going off. That's how much like. That's also how about EMF? Your fluorescent lights are going off, so I don't know if that's good for you. But anyway, yeah, don't. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
So I love this idea of bringing the paranormal experience, like exploration, induction, just personal participation, to an accessible level to people. It sort of reminds me of Catholicism versus Protestantism, right? With Catholicism, you have the intermediary to connect with the divine, whereas like in Protestantism, like you're able to directly connect with the divine. And I think that making or having these methodologies that people can access and build at home, I think it's really powerful. It takes these experiences from something that are witnessed or observed in others or as forms of entertainment to something that can be experienced in a participatory fashion. And an obligatory comment about how like one of the shittiest artifacts of capitalism is this idea that in order to be into something, you have to buy stuff, right? If you want to be a Ghostbuster or you want to do this kind of stuff, you need to spend thousands of dollars on equipment. But the reality is that like all this is accessible to other people at home for low or $0.
Well, how do you you two beards recommend that someone like Campbell or I kind of induce or interact with this?
But not me. My walnut says female brain.
Not asking you. No. I mean, I talk to you all the time. I don't get to talk to these two very often. But Campbell and I are what are we, skeptics? I don't like to call myself a skeptic. I like to say that I'm a proponent of the psychosocial hypothesis.
Very nice. I say I'm a skeptic.
Yeah, sure. You're a skeptic. Well, there's connotations and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, how would a person like me or Campbell go about doing this? Because I'm not opposed to having experiences like this or high strangeness or a numinous experience. But, in my past, I haven't. Maybe I'm trying too hard, or maybe I'm looking too hard, or maybe I'm trying to rationalize it.
I mean, I don't say on one hand, I will say you can't guarantee a numinous experience. I can like closest you can get are like one of the other aspects of this, like there's the investigation aspect, and then there's like the like personal development thing. You could build one of these. You could build yourself a brain machine, and it's hard to see because of my background. Garrett has one of these as well.
Will you talk about this?
Yeah. Vanessa said it's like getting geometry straight to your brain. It's just like
I view it as
wild.
You want to hallucinate. I can give you hallucinations like right here for about $40 worth of stuff.
Let's look it up.
Okay.
First hit screen.
Well, because like one of the other things is as things are related, there is the psi development area, and one of the things that came out of that was digitally induced altered states of consciousness. Originally, this comes out there's a William S. Burroughs made a big aluminum. Looks like a big stovepipe with holes in it, and you can put on a 78 RPM turntable. If you could find one of those, in Burroughs' heyday, much more easier than now. It's got holes cut in it. You put a light in it, and it revolves at a certain pace, and you will hallucinate. This type of technology is available. I think one of the other things, and I feel like I have two minds on this because I don't want to I'm never out to like hurt anybody's like business or stick anybody for their paper, but this stuff is like commercially, it's like $500 for this was something. It's open source. Adafruit used to sell these. Disclaimer: if you are an epileptic or prone to seizures, do not. I cannot do not any harder than that.
Right.
But I downloaded this guy's CAD files for the PCB off of here. This is like the best time because I think there was like an era where this kind of weaned in the 90s, but the maker movement has made making any of this crap on your own like super easy.
Yeah.
Upload the files to any of the online PCB printers. I used OS Park because they make it's like a midnight purple PCB, and I'm like, sexy compared to like green. Looked up the stuff that I needed on Mauser, Amazon, wherever you're going to source. Like you got a couple caps, couple resistors, couple LEDs. You need little 18 mega microcontroller. And like for me, the hump of this was learning how to program an 18 mega, but there's a little controller you can get for that too. And it's like a lot of Googling, and it's just like you spend a couple bucks, you Google. I would not recommend this as anybody's first solder project. Like there's some like really like learn to solder kits. That's good for a solder project. Yeah, the EMF detector.
It's cheap too. So.
Yeah.
I've never soldered anything in my life.
It's easy.
Jay, were you saying that this induces hallucinations, or was that a joke?
Yup. No, I'm not.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's talk
What's the mechanism?
Yeah,
Garrett? LED pulses.
Yeah, you close your eyes, and these LEDs are blinking on your eyelids, and you have headphones on so there's synced sound with it as well. And I tried it on the first time on TikTok live on the street in Seattle, just flipped it on, had no idea. I was like freaking out.
I want to try that so bad.
Yeah, I was going to ask how fast the onset is.
You say this is on TikTok?
If you look at Garrett's TikTok, I also made one of these and gave it to Vanessa Valuco, who I know has been on the show. Find her TikTok and watch where she hits the everybody. It's not gentle. One of the things I wanted to do when I had more time was to go into the source code and kind of like ramp it up rather than just like, it's like one of those
a rocket ship.
Well, when those carnival rides where you're just on a thing and they drop you, it's like that. It's just like you're just in. You are
what kind of hallucinations does it induce? Like altered consciousness as well, or is it like a sensory input hallucination? What kind of hallucination?
Input hallucination?
I haven't done this yet. This technology drugs are some of my last unexplored frontiers.
Getting punched by geometry is exactly what it is.
Right on.
What I look at it when I do it, do two things with it. Look at for two things on it. Number one, I just kind of do it as a brain reset because it can be a little bit, it's intense and it can be a little bit overwhelming, and it can just kind of like,
it's like neural annealing. That's a big reason psychedelic therapy
flush yourself out. I also look though for patterns and symbols in the geometry that I can reproduce in art or just that are interesting that might have meaning later.
Jay, you remember the Nintendo Virtual Boy, right?
Yeah.
When that was on display at Toys R Us, I tried out the demo unit and I forgot about reality when I was playing that thing. So when I stood up, Nintendo I had to completely reboot. And I'm like, oh, I'm in a Toys R Us. I'm, it was wild. So
can you still get those on eBay? And you must be able to buy those.
Probably. I mean, they're kind of cult collector's items now.
Yeah, and I grew up without that stuff, but have very distinct memories of the Virtual Boy being pretty impressive in terms of how it altered space perception and its sort of immersive qualities.
You'll definitely have to recalibrate once the sequence ends. It just also just chops off. Like it's just done. When it's done, it's like, and you're like, I just did that.
I'm down for that. That sounds.
But the other thing, I would say, one of the other things I know Garrett we were talking about all the spirit box stuff, and that literally came from just hanging out on Discord and being like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we, because it was near the holidays, and I think somebody in the Discord we're in this is the Liminal Earth Discord, was mentioning wanting to do Estes method for Santa Claus, and we were like, nah, that's been done. Like that's been done, and we're like, what about the Estes method? Is another spirit box divination method.
Okay.
Where you have
Can we take a step back to remember this is the UFO crowd, not the Liminal Earth crowd.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Talk to us, Garrett. Can you talk to us a little bit about what spirit boxes are?
Yeah, I mean they're just these little radios, basically, that have been messed with so that they scan through the frequencies, and like you just hear like little clips of the frequencies, and I think some ghost hunters think that sometimes ghosts speak through that, and I've never been really impressed with that idea, but I think it's interesting. Lots of people use it, and I for a while I found I have a SDR, which I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but it basically you plug into your computer and you can listen to the frequencies from like 30 megahertz to 1600. So instead of just like the FM dial, which is like 80 to 108, you can listen to like 1600 layers of bandwidth. And I just thought, why are the spirits only talking on the FM band? Why only there?
I never really
so like
the mechanism of that.
Yeah.
Like
I was like then I was like, well, I got an SDR. I mean an SDR. Well, I found people had done this, but like SDR ghost box, so it uses all of that. So like, marine traffic and all kinds of things. People's Wi-Fi or whatever. And so then I'm like, well, what is really like what people do have weird results when they do this. They have weird synchronicities or things happen when they're doing this that they can't really explain. So like, can we just induce it other ways? And that's why we started getting into just like taking Rodney Dangerfield and like cutting. I made something that cut up into little itty bitty pieces and then shuffled randomly through those little files. And sounds wild. It sounds super wild, and people you can still hear things because there's that whole idea of pareidolia. I don't know, like the
finding
so
patterns
like
in noise.
people think that is a way to debunk something, and that's often maybe it is, but I kind of like pareidolia and I want to induce it, and I like making machines that do it. Like that is, I want more pareidolia machines, because I think it's interesting what it does to our brains, and like and for the whole idea of like telling stories and like what comes out of that. I think there may be more there. Like taps into like some, I don't know the science behind it, but like could tap into our intuition or subconscious, or gets us into states where we're maybe feeling things that we are ignoring usually. I don't know, but it's kind of I think it because it's fun too, so it doesn't really matter if it's like that whole thing of does it have a real effect or not. So yeah, can you just use the Ghostbusters to do the soundtrack to do that? I don't know.
Maybe you've kind of indirectly answered my question before. Is maybe if I wanted to experience these things, maybe I need to like really lean into it and psych myself up, like spook myself out and try to experience these things, and like really, really lean into it and play it, and like you said, kind of induce the pareidolia and see where that takes me. Because
Oh no, go ahead.
I lost my train.
I'm sorry. Have you heard of the Philip experiment?
A bit, yeah. Kind of a laboratory ghost experiment where they essentially created a ghost.
Right, and then I think they had the best results when they actually did it like a seance, and they got into that mindset of it being like a spooky thing, and then like weird things happened, or they had results,
ritual
so I think
is super powerful, right? It's creating this container in which we all are able to function and explore that is deliberately separate from the real world or sort of base reality.
I was going to say one of the things that's important with this kind of stuff is not to dismiss the theatrical and dismiss the art aspect of it. And I think, this is again saying like the difference between looking for like laboratory proof in a parapsychological lab. Going back once again, it is Trickster in the Paranormal Time. I bring it up every time I'm on, but he talks about how the theatrical, like when you're doing a ritual, like we're going to have a shamanistic ritual, we're going to have a magic ritual. And it's like, we're going to put on masks and costumes and pretend. And we might I might throw like a pinch of like pyrite dust into the fire. So it goes, and we're simulating magic and we're simulating this, but we're moving our minds into that thing where we're instead of now it's time to me. And this is another book I'm reading. I view the way to approach all this is you got a dial now, and you've got reason, intuition, feeling, and you just you switch from, that's like how you switch your dial from reason to feeling. And you go into feeling through the start of the ceremonial aspect or just the theatrical aspect of it.
Yes.
And then you end up in the thing where you're now perceiving intuitively and you're open to having these kind of experiences through this stuff.
What other book are you reading, Jay? We're talking about Hansen, but this is always like I get my reading recommendations from you.
This is I like to think of this guy now as the father of clickbait, because the title has nothing to do with what the book is. But I am reading see it.
I have that. Yeah, it's sitting in my notes.
Sex Secrets of the Black Magicians Exposed, which has nothing to do with sex secrets or black magic, but it is a book about how we look at the world philosophically. And this gentleman who wrote this, who has a compass, and I'm going to try to hold this up to the compass. I don't know if people can see it, but you've got like art, religion, science, feeling, like the means of thought and the ways that we perceive and interact with them. And this is kind of where I'm at now. Like, religion is between thinking and intuition. Art is between feeling and intuition. Science is between sensation and thinking. And a lot of the time, I think when we do this stuff, like we're stuck in a mindset and we want to experience it, because it's really hard. Like I said, like I can punch you in the face with geometry. I can't promise an imminent experience. Even though, when Liminal Earth does UFO and we try to summon aerial beings to visit us on Wednesday nights, when that was going on, it's on hiatus. But that's like, I can't guarantee like a flying saucer is going to come down. A gray comes out, high fives you, and then he's like, "You good? You got it? Enough? We good? All right." And he's off.
Be nice though.
That'd be cool.
I also think, I kind of think sometimes when I think about, like people get that, and it kind of, this is something I said on another show, like it breaks their brain. So it's better to like, go outside and try to like leave cookies for the aliens to start with, like to switch your mind into the point. Like you want to be a little like, what does the dude say? He's like, I'm keeping my mind limber with a pretty heavy regimen of drugs. You don't need the drugs. You just need to change the modality you're approaching this stuff with and the stuff you're doing.
I think it's a good point that like you don't need the drugs. There is an impulse in humans very clear across time and space cultures. Like there's an impulse to alter our states, and there's a variety of reasons for that. But going back, mentioned the Old Testament briefly. Like they talk about scrying in there. Like you take a silver bowl and candlelight in a dark room and have a candle opposite it, and then you look into the reflection for like hours, and you eventually start to sort of abstractly hallucinate and things like that. There are no drugs involved at all.
Yeah. It's fire casino.
And then and then
I practice all over the place.
I'm not against the drugs either. That's like another technology. That's just not what I'm doing. That's not my thing, because I think for me the technological approach is easier for me to control myself and mediate myself, and like I can say like I'm gonna get like I'm working. I started this, and I need to get more Arduinos. I know Garrett will probably feel this. Arduino is a little open source board that does you. It's like you can program it to do stuff, and that's like literally the best way I can describe it. So, and you can program them to do a lot of things. Like, you can program them to be programmers for other things. Like you stick a couple. There's pins and there's like inputs out, and you could be like, this is now I got a thing to burn EPROMs in, so I can program the brains for my brain machine. Or I can be like, you are going to control, I got a radio module for the spirit box, and I'm like, plug the radio module in, you are the brains, you are now the brains of the radio module. And the code that I have inputted in, it's like run this code and direct this radio module to do things. But like use them for that. I think, isn't Arduino the heart of the Floriphone, Garrett? Or have you moved on?
No, it's using well, maybe it has that in there. I'm not sure. I just bought the kit symbol for that one. So the Floriphone is this bio data sonification unit, which sounds wild, but you may have seen it that people like going into nature and making plant music. I don't know if people have seen that before. So you basically put these.
Yes, let's do this. Plant music.
Show you. You like put these electrodes on the plant leaves. They kind of just stick to it, and it like measures changes in the electrical signals from the plant, and it turns it into NIDI MIDI, and then you can route that to like have it play piano or trumpet sounds or whatever. So what I did is I took one of those, and instead of having it make music, I had it go through this other thing that has all of the English phonemes. So all the different parts of English, like ba, ta, ti. So the idea is that the plant is controlling that and actually can speak through it. And so I just was doing this for fun because I wanted to see what it sounded like. But I made it, and then my wife was like, got down on the floor with the plant, and she's like, "Do I water you enough?" And she was like talking to it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, like this really." And even for me, like now, this plant has a name. It told us its name is Coco, and like I treat it more like an entity that it's not just decor in my bathroom anymore. It's this thing. It's like a lot.
Can you put it on the air?
Yeah.
Can it have an INS introduction?
Oh yeah, I would love to hear this.
You hear that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey Coco, it's been a while.
Coco, they're here listening to you.
Wow.
What kind of plant is Coco?
Very cool.
It's a pothos. Pothos.
Wow.
So I was thinking like doing like the spirit box, like, basically kind of same idea as like listening for words that maybe come through. I've had weird experiences too. I made some TikToks where like in my backyard, there's this plant, this like squirrel had like left a nut and was turning into a walnut tree. And my wife's like, you got to get that out of here. So I put it on there. I was like, okay, I'm going to dig you up. I'm going to put you in this pot, in this bucket. And then it sounded like it said bucket. I was like, what? And then I was like, okay. And I started digging it up. And I started going like, ow, 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 ow. And then I gave it water, and it was sounding like it was like yum, 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 yum. It's like people on TikTok just freaked out. Like, what have you made? Yeah, it's really fun. Like I like, again, like you don't have to believe that this is really talking to you, but like as you like interact with it, it starts to like really it changed how I see it and perceive it. So I water it now more. So anyway, it's just interesting. I think it's an example of like what I'm more leaning towards. Yeah.
Garrett, would you be able to talk a little bit about what drew you into your interest in this stuff? Did you have some intriguing experiences that then motivated you to dive into it, or was it the other way around where you started looking into it and then you started having these neat things?
You mean like paranormal stuff in general? Is that
yeah.
Or technical?
Well, I guess it's the
really?
combination. Yeah.
I mean, I was terrified as a kid about all this. Into my 20s, terrified about this.
Really?
I didn't have curtains on my windows as a kid, and so I saw sightings and the alien peeking through the window, just like terrified me. Actually, I met the director from the first season of Sightings recently, and I was like, "You ruined my childhood." Like he just laughed at me, but it was like I didn't know how to deal with it. Like it freaked me out, and then I read Communion and Mothman, and it actually helped me because it made me see it. Especially Mothman, just thinking of it not as so like nuts and bolts. And I think recently I was talking to my wife about this, and she said, "You really like to scare yourself with all this stuff." I'm like, "No, I do not. This stuff, sometimes it really freaks me out. And I do not like it." She's like, "You're right. Like, it does freak you out." She's like, "I think maybe you like make these TikToks and go after this stuff because then you can tell the story about it and control it a little bit better, like control the narrative." And so I think that is it. I think it makes me feel more in control of it if I can like help shape the story of it instead of it like totally being out of control. I don't know how to deal with it, and I can't, like when that person had that dream about me, that actually did set me off because I did not know how to explain that, and I had to like turn it into like a story, like okay, like maybe because I don't know how that could have happened. So anyway, I think like for me that's why I engage with it, because there's a lot of fear about it and I don't want to be scared.
Oh man, I love being scared.
That yeah, I think that's why I go more like trying to engage it with like a wondrous and kind of mysterious but like more playful way, because it helps me like manage, I guess. I don't know. And I think like I'm having fun, especially like the tech stuff. That it's a fun way to deal with this kind of thing and like do it more artfully, I think. And I can show you something else I made this.
Oh yeah,
I made this ham radio antenna with like PVC pipe and tape measures, and I put a crystal on it too as well. But I got really into this. Yeah, totally. I had heard that you can actually. I have a ham radio license, and one of the reasons I got
9
it is
years old.
Oh, really? That's
yeah,
awesome.
I have a radio tattooed on my forehead. Vanity license.
Whoa! What's your call? What's your call sign?
K1 LEA, Kilo 1 Lima Echo Alpha. I have a vanity sign.
Yeah, mine's Whiskey India 5. Whiskey India 5 Hotel Echo Romeo. But I heard that you could like bounce a signal off the moon and have it come back.
Yep.
And
yes.
I was like, I gotta do this.
I have a story here. Actually, one of my ex-boyfriends, Matt Crick, spoke at DEF CON for a couple of years about doing moon bounce technology. Because he was super, super into that. He's a ham as well.
What's the what's the length of the wavelengths on ham radio? I'm just curious. Does anybody know?
There's all kinds of different.
It's a variety of.
Like where you're allowed to. Yeah, and your license gives you like different access to certain different ranges.
Oh.
So like I just have the lowest level, but
you have a technician.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah. That's cool. I heard some actually told me too they were basically doing kind of what I'm doing with the plant talker, but like basically this, I can't remember what it's called, but you could point it at the moon and it picks up the fluctuations in the light from the moon. And I was like, whoa, I want to figure out how to turn that into, MIDI so that I make the moon talk to me and like actually talk to the moon. How witchy is that to like listen to what the moon has to say? Yeah.
I'm gonna say that's part of it though too. Like doing stuff like that is just rad. And I think it makes me feel better about like how I'm spending my time. Like just like I'm gonna like do some mad scientist stuff and
Yes.
go and
And
like
not just stare at a computer screen or a phone,
yeah.
right? Like not viewing everything through the intermediary of a screen.
Well, I always have like I think I always have the instructions up on a screen, so I'm always doing this the way my workshop is set up. I gotta move things around a little bit, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just like there's part of me that's like, and being a wizard is cool, and that is motivation. That should also be motivation enough to do it. Like build yourself an identity as somebody that does like the strange and impossible, and then go do it and just be like makes you feel better.
Yeah, well, or at least like
feels good, man.
actively participate in the experience of reality, right? Like that's what I always think about when I think about like doing meditation work or dream work or imaginal work or breath work. Like any of this to me feels like directly experiencing reality, and being able to shape and engage with it in ways that aren't like I said, like mediated through a screen, which is a pretty reductionist way of saying basically like not being dictated by algorithms. Um,
During the pandemic, we started doing UFO, and I don't know.
oh yeah, talk to us about this. It was on my list of questions to ask you.
So yeah, that was about over a year ago. Our friend Madeline posted like, "Oh, I'm reading the Mothman, and it says in here that John Keel says like Wednesday at 10 p.m. is the best time to see a UFO statistically at the time." And we're like, "Well, let's try that. Let's everyone go outside, you know." And I had this experience doing that, but like, whoa, it's like nice to go outside at night and like
It's so nice. Yes.
and like not be on my screen and like and get freaked out a little bit. Oh, but that's just a raccoon, and that's the experience of a lot of people is like, I hear frogs, like then they're like really excited about that. And it's like a really nice time every week to just do this like ritual thing to go outside and just like look at the stars and like I know it's like maybe I'm getting old or something and dorky, but I really love it, and it's cool to like engage with them and like think about ostensibly you're looking for UFOs, but there's so much stuff that is happening every time we do that. And like these are like, what's that star? Like what is the mythology behind that? To know that people have been like making up stories about the constellations and the stars throughout time, and like you're part of that now. And we've been at UFO. So every week we do this. We go out and we do like a little pre-show usually. We were doing that. And we do experiments, and then we all go out afterwards. And we were trying to do like create new mythologies about constellations and using like divination and like going into altered states to like to do that. Like we create our own myths about those stars if we want. They're there for us to use, and it's been really fun. And especially during the pandemic, it was like an amazing like group activity we did through like just like this StreamYard, and it was great. It was and we were trying to do also experiments that everyone could do at home at the same time.
Yes.
So it wasn't just us performing for people; it was like a group thing. Yeah, it was fun. We're taking a little break because I'm leaving, but yeah,
I'm gonna say, just what I the closest I can get to an instant spiritual experience is you can go somewhere clear and stare up at the night sky and see the stars. Like that's my background as a shot I took out in the country. I just always feel better and somehow more at peace, and just reminding myself that the rest of this stuff is out there. It's not just like my job and my stress and like like a PowerPoint I have to get for somebody by the end of the week. So I do think just engaging with it like that, even if you're not up to the point of like, I'm going to create new mythologies, although again, badass wizard stuff, go out and like just like connect a little bit at first, cautiously connect with the raccoons in the backyard, but definitely connect with the stars.
I was trying to do actually some divination with the stars just by like closing my eyes and like finding one and then finding out what its name is, asking a question, and then like, okay, what star is that? What's its history? And you get like tarot cards like that is right there, and like it has that thing like even if you're just playing, but you actually physically learn about that star or whatever, and that. I mean, a lot of that is what I like about all this paranormal stuff too, is like digging into the history of a place and like reading old newspapers.com articles and talking to people. There's all these other things if you just kind of push into it, I think, that come with the territory.
And well, there's a long history. Like I believe it was Aristotle, I think, that defined, or maybe it was Plato. The human is the political animal, right? Where like our brains are hardwired towards social activities. That's sort of like the core nature of our survival over time, and it makes sense. Like we've talked about this before on the show, how looking up at the stars, there's the 7 wanderers, right? And those are the gods, and they're named the planets. Those people looked up and attributed human qualities to the objects that they could see, non-human intelligences above us who actually came down to Earth and hybridized with humans. The stories remain the same, and it's the nature of humanizing those phenomena, then turning them into a story. That the stories about humans is what humans can remember. And so, like, if the position of the stars determines when you plant or when you harvest, that's critical information for you to remember. So it's pretty neat that we're sort of carrying that on now. And the biggest feature being the community. And so like Jay and Garrett, I'd love it if you guys both of you would be able to talk a little bit about how you came together and started building up this community that you have, Liminal Earth. What brought that into reality?
Well, I started that with my friend Jeremy back in 2018 when we were living in Seattle, and Seattle went through all these changes because Amazon was growing, and we were like feeling kind of bumming about it, and we decided to like make like kind of like a Tolkien Lord of the Rings style map of Seattle, like the magical areas that we felt were changing. And so we put like places that we had weird experiences. We put like the Hellmouth is like where Amazon headquarters is. That was kind of how it started. And then I put it up on Facebook and I was like, hey, anyone have any weird places in Seattle they want to add to this? And people just like started sharing all their weird experiences, and like, not just like I saw a ghost here, but like having these kind of like profound experiences, all kinds of varieties. Sometimes like finding a bag of hair on the bus or something. But that's how it kind of grew. We just like started collecting it as like a folklore project almost. It was just like collecting people's stories, and it just grew and grew, and we expanded it to the whole Earth. So now it's Liminal Earth. Yeah, and so we have a little Discord community, and that's where I met Jason. And there's a whole like Liminal Tech channel where we talk about weird projects we're building and all sharing our stuff, because I think there's the spirit amongst all of us not wanting to like gatekeep that kind of stuff, and like just kind of make it more accessible, all of this more accessible to people, and not like behind a paywall.
Yeah, I saw Liminal Earth stuff on Twitter with the map and the Oracle deck.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the Oracle of the Hypogeum, and people doing that. Somebody was doing like, draw you like a couple cards from that, and I was like, hey, do it for me. And then yeah, it's just it's a lot of, like Garrett said, a lot of hanging out on Discord and just chatting, and like sometimes it's slow, sometimes we're all like da da da. Like I was thinking of that like when we did the Christmas box, the spirit box thing, when you first figured that out, but that just came from like you and me, and I think AP Strange and some other folks, just kind of Vanessa and some other people just being like, hey, what if we do this? Well, what if it does? Somebody else like, what if it does this? Well, what if, and it's like, all right, let's see if we can. Garrett's like, I'll figure it out if I can make it, and it was just going that way, or the same thing where I was like, I'm going to make this brain machine. Who's in? Like, who wants to get punched in the face by geometry? Because like for me, it's like I had to order the MOQ on boards was like 6. So it was like, who will volunteer? And yeah, it's I kind of feel like that's like I'm gonna be like again sort of like pouring one out for pre Elon Musk Twitter. As bad as we thought Jack was, he wasn't nearly that bad.
Is Elon? I mean, I agree entirely that Elon Musk is a very problematic figure. Was there something specifically he did that interfered with your stuff on there?
I just feel like there was a good community. There is still people
Yeah.
there that's like, people with not, into this kind of thing, like blending all of the stuff we're talking about. And especially Jeremy, my friend Jeremy, who started the map with me, was really into Twitter, but like we've decided to not use it anymore. Like we couldn't deal with it anymore. So it's just a bummer because we felt really we love all those people that are there, and that's kind of gone.
Yeah, it's a different shift.
I would say, I mean, the paid blue checks sort of caused, in my opinion, the percentage of knobs to multiply on there, and it's just like sometimes it's just like, God, this is like very it's just like the atmosphere changed, and you have like a lot of knobs in your mentions, and I think again that was kind of like right when that was also like when UFO Twitter got like bad,
I mean, it's always been bad. It's just gotten worse.
Yeah.
You can always, like, no matter how big the fire is, you can always pour gas on it. Like,
it's always
it's kind of like in there doing that. But I know, like, Liminalers on you guys are on Mastodon all the time.
Yeah.
Which Mastodon's its own thing, kind of.
I have to get you on Blue Sky.
Oh yeah, I haven't looked into that one yet.
I keep trying it.
I like it. It's very in group. Like I was one of the very first. I was like in the first 1,000 people on the platform. It's it has a very good vibe right now, but I will also say that it has a very laissez-faire approach to moderation, and that kind of free speech absolutism is usually like the first cancer cell that leads to the ruining of a platform.
Seems so to be.
Yes. It's good now. We'll see how it is soon. I appreciate the ability to tailor algorithms, and some of it's more, not just, when I say user-friendly, I mean more like not just in an intuitive interface sense, but just sort of how it considers the users of its products, or the users of the platform. But I like it. It seems to me to have the appropriate blend between the distribution and federation that Mastodon has, with the kind of ease of setup and interface that Twitter has. So making the leap to the new platform really isn't too much of a learning curve.
That's
true. I will say this though, I'm not that into it. Somehow Twitter.
I've tried.
Here's a thing that is really, it's like, as much as people like Twitter is like the hell mouth, somehow whatever Twitter's algorithm was at one point did bring the friendos together.
Yeah.
Like when Garrett and I, like a lot of people, you could talk about, like one of my best friends now, I literally was just like, I am going to go see the Misfits on their second reunion show. Who's going with me? And some dude that's local. And I was like, okay, man, let's go see if let's go like hang out and see if we can feel each other out for being a serial killer. And if that's good, we'll like go to the show. And that guy's one of my best friends now. And somehow Blue Sky doesn't have that. Blue Sky is like big chunks of Twitter moved over, but if you weren't in that chunk, like it does not have. There's not enough weirdos on Blue Sky.
Yeah, it's all Teapot people mostly. So
I don't even. What does Teapot mean?
Teapot, it's basically, it stands for this part of Twitter, but it explicitly is talking about this like niche community on Twitter.
Okay.
I'm like the UFO person on Teapot.
I thought it was.
community than
I thought it
UFOs?
was like a variation of thought. Like it was like this, like because it's a lot of I see a lot of self-proclaimed teapot people pontificating. So I thought it was
Yeah,
like
it's a lot of
this
like earnest
this
posting, like no culture war stuff, non-political to some degree or another. Um, I mean, I only started really posting on Twitter about a year ago, and it was because I was so totally dispossessed. Like I'd left my job, left my relationship, was living a completely itinerant life, and I just started like posting like crazy to try to make friends. And I've had like an amazing year on Twitter. Like I will forever be angry at Elon Musk for destroying what to me seemed like a really great positive thing. Like I made so many friends. I met my husband on Twitter. Like this is like Twitter is it, man. It is the ultimate dating site without being a dating site.
it's
Crazy. I only know a bunch of freaks on Twitter.
Well,
Hey,
I'm like kind of
that's
like
how I know all you guys. That's how I know all you. Like I know all of
Noah's
you
a
from Twitter.
I mean,
I-
yeah, man.
I think it's look. Couple of years ago, I was starting to get like full disclosure. I work in algorithmic marketing and marketing science, so I've literally led the teams designing the platforms and tools that deliver like relevant or, if not frankly, exploitative advertising at relevant times to users. I'm pretty familiar with how all these systems work, both on Facebook, Google, Instagram, Twitter, whatever. Um, and a few years ago, I started getting very serious about trying to remove the extractive attention economy from my life. So, like, trying to really get rid of these tools that were basically just hollowing out my consciousness and the consciousness of so many other people around me. And what I will say about Twitter, just like I'll say about Instagram, just like I'll say about any of these other platforms, is if you take a proactive approach and sort of pruning your engagement and who you follow, and you're also not shy about blocking and muting people, they're actually still pleasant experiences. But you have to take this like very intentional effort to curate your own experience, because if you don't, the freaking tech bro and like the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco is going to make the decisions about what you should see for you, and that's unpleasant. Like that never leads to a good place.
The thing about Twitter is like everybody on any side of any argument is confronted daily with so many bad faith arguments that it just leaves everyone on edge. And I think that's why that like it's like 0 to hostile so quickly.
Oh yeah, it's like a binary. It's a discrete,
and like I get it
not
too,
continuous.
because like
Yeah.
like I said, we're all getting it, and like I can speak specifically to UFO Twitter. The skeptics and the believers are constantly being bombarded by bad faith arguments. So like I see people out there genuinely trying to have conversations even across that divide, but like everybody's got their eye on everybody else because it's
Yes.
inevitably going to turn into like a gotcha moment. So I think
Yeah,
everybody's it really
also doesn't help.
facilitates being at each other's throats.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that like UFO Twitter, which is already super paranoid, is really prone to this. Like I see a comment from the Earth, I would never date on Twitter. I don't know,
Right.
just don't date UFO Twitter. I had a great dating life on Twitter. I just didn't touch the UFO people. Like that's pretty straightforward.
I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
still there. I mean, I've tried to leave a couple
Yeah.
times. When
I'm
I'm
still
back.
there too. That's a Every
The
time
thing of it
I
is,
think
is
I'm
like-
out, they pull me back in.
Yeah,
It's just
same.
you get the news there first. You know what I mean? I
Yeah,
used
I'd
to
like
feel
to
that
see
way
what
about
people
Reddit a
say.
few years ago.
Like
But, like-
Nick, I always check your replies. I check Jay's replies. Like I just like seeing how people comment and engage with different things. It's definitely parasocial, right? It takes the
Yeah.
place of having, I don't talk to you guys very much directly, but I like seeing your comments and your thoughts on things.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That ended it.
So I've been trying to use so Vanessa, who's come on here apparently, she started weirdo.network, so that's like a Mastodon instance. And I just wish all my friends were there because like it's literally Vanessa's in charge of it.
Right.
Although today I tried to fix something and I broke it, so it's kind of broken right now. But like it just feels like it's like I wish it was just our friend group because that's all I really care about is all these
Right.
weirdos, and I just don't want to participate and I don't want to ever see anything Elon Musk has to say ever again.
Yes.
I've heard enough.
No kidding.
Oh,
So,
I had
like,
that dude blocked.
So yeah. So I just like I don't have any. I just want the friends. That's the part I care about.
Mhm.
So, and I do think it's kind of interesting that like, I for that like no one could come in and buy this. You know, he couldn't come and take it away like he did to Twitter. You know, it's ours. You know, he can't come buy
Yes.
email. He can't come buy this.
It's like owning your house versus having landlords, right?
Right, totally, exactly. Although like the same thing, you have to do some like home maintenance. So like right now, all the images are broken until I fix that.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. Anyways, that's
So
how I'm
Gary, you
feeling
were
about it. Go ahead.
you were saying that the weekly viewings at 10 p.m. have been on hold now. You
Yeah.
mentioned that you're going somewhere. Is that right, or something? I'm just curious if you could expand on sort of your plans for Liminal Earth and those viewing parties and your Discord and things like that.
Oh yeah, we'll be doing those again when I get back. I'm going on like a 45-day vacation
Ooh,
to
nice.
Europe.
Cool.
Nice.
Good for you.
And so I'm gonna go try to take some videos. I've been finding people on TikTok and Mastodon actually has been helpful. I tagged all the cities I'm going to, and people like reached out to me. But I'm trying to like find like witches and weirdos and like all the weird places that we're going over there. I heard that there's this cave. I'm not sure if we're gonna be able to do it. There's a cave in Greece where they used to like worship Pan. But in modernity, people see UFOs around it. So I think that is interesting.
Cool.
Like it's like continuing the. I'm going to Delphi or Delphi to try to meet up with the Oracle.
Breathe in some
try
of
to
those
do something
fumes.
there. Yeah, totally.
Good
Have some
fumes.
cave fumes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited about doing that. So that's mainly why we're taking a little break. I'm just so much to do before I leave, and then coming back and we'll start up. We've been doing something. I didn't bring this up earlier. For UFO recently, we've been getting into using ChatGPT.
Oh, cool.
Because we had seen, and I don't know if this is part of like my like kind of like ADHD thing, like why I like it, but I saw a thing where someone has using a ChatGPT to be the dungeon master in their D&D games.
Interesting.
Cool.
And so I like the idea of like, okay, ChatGPT, you are the operator between us and the aliens. You're going to be our liaison. And so you tell, like, this is our tools, magical tools that we have, our divination tools. You tell us which one of us needs to like pull a tarot card or do whatever. And, or, like whatever methods we have at our disposal. And then we do it, and then we give the results back to it. And then it uses those results to tell us what it means, like why the aliens are talking to us in that way. And so we're having these like conversations, and it's been amazing. It's been super fun, and like helps with the storytelling process. It also helps with like having this outside person kind of leading that's not us. And it has this kind of weird, sometimes bad like Deepak Chopra, sense of like wisdom voice to us. But it's been really fun to engage with it in that way. And I don't know, that's been a cool thing we did. And also this is another weird thing. Hopefully we're gonna do when I get back. I had this idea. I've been hearing these people doing these solo RPG games, like writing games, where like basically one of the examples is like you're the tea shop owner at the last tea shop before someone enters the afterlife. And there's a character that's going to come to you and roll some dice and to see what kind of character it is, and like basically write, and you write to find out is what they call it. So you kind of like use your imagination and like you learn who this character is. I was like, oh, that's such a cool idea. So I was like, what if we went to a vacant parking lot? You like wrote to find out the entity that lives in this parking lot. Just use the parking lot as this like liminal space where you can like engage with like the parking lot entity. And so I asked ChatGPT, is like, hey, how could you be at a parking lot and like talk to an entity? And it gave me this really cool idea about like looking for a car's license plate and using the license plate as kind of a bibliomancy. So like If there's an A, it means like alluring. If there's a number after that, it's like 1. So as low, it's not alluring, and then B, benevolent, so like basically you can like kind of learn about the like qualities of the entity. And it gave me all these like working through it, we came up with this whole like system to like have nothing except a parking lot and like have this kind of like playful game where you meet an entity and like learn about it and like learn its character. Anyways, I'm super excited about that. That's something I'm working on right now, and I want to go play it like really bad. It's kind of the same kind of world of like imagination play, but also, in my view, when I do those kinds of things, weird stuff happens and I have good results. So that's why I'm excited to try this. Anyways, that's what I'm doing. I'm using ChatGPT a lot for those kinds of things to kind of like find connections between things that maybe I wouldn't see always.
That's really interesting. Leah and I have talked about this. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Leah and I have talked about this multiple times about kind of new myth being born of emergent technologies, and I like we see this with the telegraph, kind of paralleling the Fox sisters interacting with Mr. Splitfoot, and I always thought that the internet itself was ripe for that, and we never really saw myth come out of it. But I think ChatGPT might be a better candidate, and we might see, maybe even after our lifetimes, kind of myth being born of that through interactions like you're describing. It's really it's really interesting. It makes me want to pay closer attention.
Yes. So we're coming up on the bottom of the hour.
True. It's
a truncated show tonight. Garrett, before we wrap things up, where can we find you?
Yes.
You can our website, where if you've had any kind of strange experience, you can add it to our map. It's liminal, liminal .earth. And you can go read all the kinds of stories of people's strange experiences they've had.
Awesome.
So that's a main place. And then I recommend going to TikTok because we have, I think, funny TikTok or like weird stuff there.
Awesome.
So it's just liminal earth TikTok. And yeah, go check that out. I think that's, especially there's this pile of peeled oranges that keeps appearing in this forest in Renton, Washington. That's kind of like our big thing right now. So
cool.
Go look for the mystery oranges.
Awesome. Well, Garrett, thank you so much for coming by tonight, especially on such short notice.
Thank you.
We loved having you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Say good evening to the plant for us too.
Yeah, if you want to take a break. Bye, everyone.
Bye, Coco.
Bye, Coco.
I love
it. I think I got camera shy. All right.
Thank you, Garrett. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Yeah.
You know what that kind of sounds like is that startup sequence of the Nostromo at the beginning of Alien. When the computer starts turning on and they're waking up. I love the sound of that.
It's super cool. I love it.
What's everybody up to?
Oh, man.
Working on anything?
Yeah. I'm going to fry my brain coming up pretty soon.
Cool.
There's a guy, speaking of TikTok, I ended up just stumbling across the Tarot Museum in Nashville.
Oh, yeah.
The guy that runs that is nothing. He does not talk about tarot at all. Everything he talks about is fringe tech. And one of his things is that HemiSync, the HemiSync that we all know and love, doesn't work. Like HemiSync, it worked, but it was because of the magnets in the headphones. And really, the whole thing is about magnetic pulses to the brain, not the audio. And again, this is where I got to get another Arduino because he's got a psi training machine. Like the commercial one he was selling for like $300, but you can build your own and get a thing. And it's a little like, seems like a baby god helmet, but
yes,
I'm going to try to put that together and check that out. Yeah.
It's only like $50 for the kit. And I don't know if they still do, but I know they were selling it direct off the site. It's on the list of things I would love to build and try out too.
I just need to
So
commission
can't wait to
someone
hear your
to
experience.
solder this shit for me. Because I want to try that brain machine thing. So
Yeah, I want to
I
try.
don't know. Like
Yeah, I want to do.
electricity to the brain.
We should do the brain machine live on a stream. This is
I,
definitely something
no.
I would do.
I'm completely down.
Well,
Yeah.
I could build more of them. Actually, I was building the last one is for Leah.
Mhm.
I have one board left, and I could do another batch, and just the only thing that for me, I think, like, I just have to reorder everything.
Mhm.
Just get some capacitors, and
Yeah,
I
we could
have
throw
like
some
a
cash your way.
Yeah.
I have I just have a
Have an
mess
INS
of.
meets on the geometric astral plane episode where we all turn out at the same time and
I
see
would
what
definitely-
Have you seen people drink though? There's a in Chicago, Illinois, there is a schnapps brewed from Wormwood called Jeppson's Malort.
Mm.
And
Oh yeah, I've
if
had
you look
Malort.
at people, look at the Malort face, because that's kind of what people do when the brain machine hit. Like if I have, like I took a picture of, I gave one to a friend of mine who wanted to try it, and I just,
Yes.
being a jerk, snapped a picture of her when she turned it on. She's like, never show that to anyone. So
Awesome.
yeah,
Campbell, what are you up to?
Well, waiting out the wildfires. Got to keep all the things closed. But yeah, I've just been at my farm planting every day, basically. Otherwise, I mean, not the last couple days, but keeping busy with the land. The plant thing is making me really potentially want to get one of those, see if the weed plants sound different.
Leah,
Nick, what are you up to? Oh, what am I
Me,
doing?
I've got this Saturday. I'm playing a webcam game of the old dead X-Files TCG or CCG.
Very cool.
Yeah,
What is that?
collectible card game. You know, like Pokemon Magic. But there was a
For
very
X-Files.
briefly lived X-Files one in the '90s,
Wow.
and there's a small niche community that's keeping the game alive and making new cards and stuff like that. I just ran into them kind of recently, but I had a bunch of the old cards from when I was a kid. So I'm going to play a game on Saturday, and I'll share the YouTube link after that's done, so you guys can
Very
watch
cool.
Nice.
me.
What am I
Aside
up
from
to?
that, I'm not doing anything. Just chilling.
Sounds nice.
Yeah. Leah.
What am I up to? Probably the biggest thing is I'm running basically a Mystic Woo tent village at basically a regional burn coming up in the next 2 weeks. So super excited about that. Really nice. Will be really nice to meet a bunch of people I've only talked to on Twitter and online. So doing that. Back in the Northeast, then heading back out to the Pacific Northwest for the rest of the summer. So when I'm not shitposting on Twitter and hosting INS or organizing conspiratorial cabals, spending most of my time right now hiking and with Mr. Prime, right? Domestic bliss.
I think the Earth must have played the X-Files CCG in the past.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They just make a comment.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I guess
really interested in this because I missed that in the day.
It's great.
1985.
It's kind of like Clue in a way.
Oh cool.
Where you're doing yes or no questions against your opponent's X file. You each draw one, and then you investigate sites and there's skill checks involved, and it's really fun. And like I said, this community's making new sets.
Oh, that's cool.
Simon Fly, you have homework.
Yeah.
Oh my
Also,
gosh.
I see V is doing a rewatch of Twin Peaks season 3. The Return, which I recommend. I haven't.
Cool.
I haven't
gone
gone
back
back
and
I
rewatched
haven't
it
seen
either.
3 yet.
I've been really into subliminal jihad lately. This podcast. I'm not sure if I would categorically recommend it, but I've been working through their UFO and cryptid episodes. Lots of fun. They're also long episodes, so when I row or go running or hiking or whatever, a lot of times I'll listen. It's kind of lefty conspiranoia. I don't know.
Cool.
It's I would categorize it as a guilty pleasure in the sense I certainly don't agree with or believe necessarily their conclusions, but it's really cool listening to 3 hours of kind of conspiratorial discussion about Kenneth Anger or the Mothman or whatever.
What are we doing next week?
TBD. Not sure. We might bring Vanessa on next week. We might just do a roundtable. We'll find out. And then might just do an open lines show. And then the week of the 20th, I will be out. It's a travel day for me. I think we actually may just not do a broadcast that evening, but we'll find out. We'll see. We'll play it by ear.
Okay.
As always, yeah, folks, Discord's linked in the show description. We'd love to see you guys. You can find us on Twitter. We broadcast most Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. And as always, if you have guest or subject recommendations, please feel free to reach out on Discord or on Twitter to any of us.
Yeah.
Is there anything else before I hang up the line?
No, I think that's good. Yeah, come jump on the Discord.
I'm gonna be looking for X-Files cards after this. That's all I got.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can usually find them for pretty cheap.
Might get into
Well,
this.
that's good stuff.
You can get singles. There's a couple singles aftermarket places too. I'll hook you up.
You guys can talk offline about this. All right.
Awesome.
All of y'all.
Call
Have a nice night.
Yeah.
You
See ya.
too. Bye.